Hello and welcome back. Before I begin, I'd like to give a big thank you to 3 Spoons of Sugar and Nicholas of Otra for becoming my 2 newest subscribers. Thank you very much, I really appreciate it. And now, on with the haul. This is, as usual, a haul from the Book Thing of Baltimore, a wonderful nonprofit where they give out free books every weekend and also accept donations of unwanted books, and you can visit them online at www.bookthing.org. First, I was excited to find this novel by Marguerite Duras, Les Dents Cinéma. I've read only one of Duras' other books, a novel called Le Marin de Gibraltar, or The Sailor from Gibraltar. And that one, I don't know, it wasn't perfect as a novel, but I really liked it. It kind of just captured my imagination and was a really interesting read. So I'm looking forward to reading some more of her work. And then I got Monsieur de Lourdines by A. de Chateaubriand. This is some sort of classic French novel. I mean, I'd never heard of it, but that is one thing that's kind of cool about finding these. This is a livre de poche edition. These are so cute. I love those spines with their bright little candy colors. The exciting thing about exploring these livre de poche and to some extent the folio editions in French is, as I'm sure we have a lot of classics that they've never heard of in France, and they have a lot of classics that, you know, we in the United States have never heard of, and it's just interesting finding things that may well be quite good, but just because we're not so deep into the culture. And I say we, I mean, I know I have viewers all over the world, and that I, not being so deep into French culture as an American, had never heard of before. So this is about a guy living an idyllic country life, and it was a very brief synopsis inside the book, but apparently his son shows up and threatens to somehow drag him out of his blissful country existence. So we shall see. And then I got this, I believe, novel by Sarah Davidson called Friends of the Opposite Sex. I have no idea how good this is, and frankly it probably isn't very good, but Sarah Davidson wrote a nonfiction book called Loose Change, which was about 3 women's journeys through the 1960s, and I think I've mentioned this before in some other video, but I am always very interested to go back and see what these people who wrote all this 1960s ephemera, kind of what their literary paths wound up taking. I'm being a little convoluted. I like to follow certain literary figures through their careers, even if they're not necessarily writing about something I would be interested in otherwise. Like Susan Browdy wrote this great book about Kathy Bodine of the Weather Underground, and then she'd written a lot of other stuff that doesn't necessarily interest me, like she wrote a true crime book and a memoir of her divorce and that kind of thing, but I'll read them just because she wrote one thing that interested me. Anyway, I'm sorry, that was a little convoluted, but even if this isn't a very good novel, that's why I'm interested in reading it. And then I got The Honorable Schoolboy by John le Carré. My boss is a big John le Carré fan, and he said that the 3 that are really the most worth reading are the trilogy, Tinker, Tailor, Soldier, Spy, Smiley's People, and The Honorable Schoolboy. And I have a feeling this is like the 3rd in the trilogy, although it might be the 2nd, but as you know, that's just my luck. I always find, you know, book 2 or book 3 in the trilogy, so I'm hoping the others will show up eventually. And then I got this novel by Gordon Merrick, Forth into Light. Just don't ask. And then I got Ask Mama, or Ask Mama, by R.S. Surtees. Surtees is one of these minor British writers who's sort of considered a classic, but he's not like a huge classic. I have never read any of his books, but I have a couple of others, Mr. Sponge's Sporting Tour and Mr. Facey Romford's Hounds, I think is the name of the other one. I'm not really sure how to describe them. I haven't read any of them, but they seem like a little bit lighter kind of social novels of manners. And then this was really pretty cool. I got Thomas Carlyle by, alright, I don't know how to pronounce this guy's name. It's either Froude or Froude or Frode. It's F-R-O-U-D-E, who apparently is a pretty famous historian he wrote a biography of Henry VIII, which I have not read yet, but I have at least one volume of it in a nice little Everyone's Library edition. And I love Thomas Carlyle. He's one of my favorite, I guess, men of letters. I loved his book on the French Revolution, and also, although they say his portrait of Napoleon is super biased, but I just enjoyed it as a book. And I love his essays as well, so I'm eager to read this biography. And actually, I'm curious when this was written, because it looks pretty old. Let's find out, shall we? Maybe we shan't. I'm sorry, I know this is fascinating. Nope, okay. Can't find a publication date easily, but I'm sure through the wonders of the internet you can if you so desire. And then I have to qualify a statement I made, I think, in my last video, and I may have made it before, about the Plume imprint, which was one of my favorite imprints from, 20, 30 years ago, and then I always say, and then they went really downhill. Well, here's an exception to that, which is the Jane Austen Book Club, which I read, I think, when it first came out. It's by Karen Joy Fowler, and I actually only read it because Fowler was included in my Salon.com Reader's Guide to Contemporary Authors, and I've had that book since I was 16, and I've always had this kind of obsession with reading at least something by each of the authors in it. I haven't gotten there yet, but I'm actually pretty close. But I was like, okay, Karen Joy Fowler, gotta read something, and that was what was at hand. And as I understand it, it's actually a bit atypical of her work. She's done a lot of kind of speculative fiction and fantasy, literary fantasy. But anyway, so I've already read this, and I actually had it in the hardcover edition, but we got this lovely edition, which is Plume, so they have published something good recently, and it has the movie cover, and this is one of those few cases where I thought the book was quite good. I really enjoyed it, but I thought the movie was even better. So I thought it would be exciting to have the movie cover, especially because we have Hugh Dancy on the cover, and he's so adorable. It's funny because I really enjoyed this book, and I am really not a huge Jane Austen fan, which I'm sure will lose me fans and subscribers. I'm sorry, people, but I don't know, don't really like her that much. Yet I thought this book was great, so highly recommend this whether you're a Jane Austen fan or not a Jane Austen fan. And then, even as a non-Jane Austen fan, I could not resist this book. It's called Lost in Austen, Create Your Own Jane Austen Adventure. It's by Emma Campbell Webster. And this is basically like a choose-your-own-adventure book, but with Jane Austen characters. And I don't know, I find that stuff kind of neat, so I figured I would give it a look-see. And I'm not sure if this has anything to do with... There was a mini-series called Lost in Austen, which was kind of cute. Alex Kingston was in it. She played the mother, which is like shocking for those of us who remember her playing, Maud Flanders in the 90s, and now Alex Kingston is always playing these mother roles. But it was a cute little mini-series about a modern-day young woman who gets sent back into Jane Austen's time and all the chaos that results, but I have no idea if this has anything to do with that, although they share a title. And every once in a while, a book is just so odd-looking that you kind of have to pick it up. And this is Starry Nights by Shobha Day, and it appears to be about a young Bollywood actress who gets sucked into making pornographic films. And that just was like, huh? And this is this is Penguin, but it's Penguin India. So, I don't know, I was like, I think I need to take this. And then I picked up Tar Baby by Toni Morrison. I've read 2 Toni Morrison novels, Jazz, which I read when I was really just starting to get into adult contemporary fiction. Before then I had read basically like adult classics, but nothing really written for adults that had been written recently, and that was Jazz. And I really loved it at the time. I'm not sure I would care about it that much now. And then I read Beloved in school, and I thought there were some really neat parts to it, but overall I wasn't that crazy about it. And I can't say I've ever been moved to pick up any of her other stuff. Oh wait, no, I did read Love, when I was first working in a bookstore years ago. That came out, and I think I was the only person on the staff who even remotely liked it. I wasn't crazy about it, but I thought it was all right. But anyway, this one, for some reason, really appeals to me, so I figure I will jump back into Morrison with this at some point. And then I got Janet Frame's autobiography. This is 3 volumes, including To the Island, An Angel at My Table, and The Envoy from Mirror City. Janet Frame is just a really interesting writer. She is one of those Antipodean female authors, so of course I'm going to like her. She wrote a children's book that I had when I was a little kid called Mona Minim and the Smell of the Sun, about ants, which was pretty cool. And then I read Scented Gardens for the Blind, which I really liked as well. Really odd, dark little novel. And I also saw the film An Angel at My Table, which was based on possibly all 3 of these, although certainly the second one, since it shares a title. So I'm looking forward to reading these. And last but not least, you know, I've talked about Michael Lewis and how Liar's Poker changed my life, so I had to pick up the new thing, A Silicon Valley Story, which is also by Dear Mr. Lewis. And if you've made it this far, thanks for watching, and I hope you'll join me for my next video.